What if I were to tell you that you can use this super simple trick to instantly make your chords sound 10 times better? This is something that I personally use in almost all my songs, and I think you're going to find it especially useful. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. The subject of today's video is of course 7th chords. This is probably my favorite music theory topic as it's so easy to learn and it makes such a difference to the music you're making. So what is a 7th chord? 7th chords are where you take a normal chord, also known as a triad, tri meaning 3 as there are 3 notes, and you add a 4th note to the chord. This note is the 7th note in the chord's relative scale, hence the name 7th chord. 7th chords are extensively used in genres such as jazz and lo-fi. However, you will likely find 7th chords in every genre due to their versatility and tone. The first person to use the 7th chord in all its glory was a man named Claudio Monteverdi. He was considered a crucial transitional figure between the Renaissance and Baroque periods of music history. The 7th chord appeared in an extract of Monteverdi's La Sciatemi Morir, Lamento di Arana in 1608. It was used conservatively, prepared and resolved as a suspension. In the classical period, the 7th chord was in constant use, achieving a similar effect to which Monteverdi had used it for. Continuing on through the Romantic period, 7th chords were used more and more as dissonant and crunchy chords were becoming more widespread. 7th chords were then used extensively in jazz and pop music from the 20th century up until present day. Nowadays, 7th chords are everywhere. My personal theory as to why 7th chords are so popular and sound so good is due to how a standard 7th chord is actually made of a minor triad and a major triad. This gives a pull in both directions, towards minor, which is often perceived as sad, and towards major, which is often perceived as happy. This gives the chord a very balanced and calm sound, hence why it is so popular in lo-fi. So now that you know where 7th chords come from, what they are used for and why they sound so good, we can take a look at how you can make and use these chords in your own music. As I said earlier, a 7th chord is composed of a triad and the 7th note of its relative scale. This may sound confusing, but if you know your scales, it's actually extremely straightforward. If you're not familiar with scales and stuff, don't worry because it's still really simple. To make a 7th chord, first construct a triad. This is a chord composed of a root, the base of the chord, a perfect 5th, which is 7 semitones above the root note, and then a major or minor third, either 4 semitones above the root if it's major, or 3 semitones above the root if it's minor, a semitone being the smallest gap on a keyboard. To turn it from a triad to a 7th chord, count up to the 7th note in the chord's relative scale. For example, if it's in A minor, the 7th note is G. But what if you don't know scales? Count from the root up 11 semitones if you're making a major 7th, and 10 semitones if you're making a minor 7th. This is your 7th note of the scale. I find it a lot easier to think of it as adding the root to the top, and then lowering it by 1 semitone if it's a major 7th, or by 2 semitones if it's a minor 7th. And that's it! You can now make one of the most beautiful chords in my humble opinion. Use this chord to spice up your chord progressions and share them with me in my Discord. I love to see all of your guys' creations. However, 7th chords are only the beginning. If you want to be able to captivate your listeners through spicy and unique chord progressions, check out this video here where I discuss more in-depth chords that can be used alongside triads and 7th chords.